Dude, you got
John.
Rocky Four behind you, man. Nice.
Yeah, and I wish I had room for
The
more
Karate
posters.
Kid, right
Yeah,
behind your head.
and Wind River. So I got some. I wish I had room for more, John. But
I know. There's never enough room.
so all greats are born in '73, John, is what I'm learning from you and I.
Oh, good. Yeah, you and I nailed it. What month?
October.
I'm June. I got here ahead of you.
Did you feel different when you hit 50?
Yeah, man.
I do too.
I,
I
I
feel
cut my
I feel
hair
like
short.
I feel like the this sounds so dire. I feel like the clock is ticking. I feel like you better start appreciating if you haven't appreciated so far.
I got a daughter who's 17, is going to go off to college soon. It's funny, there was this quote from Rocky, interestingly enough, from Sylvester Stallone in his documentary. He said something really profound about like you get to that point in life where you stop counting forwards and you start counting backwards.
That's a great one. That's a
You know what I
great one.
mean?
Yeah,
And you really
yeah.
do realize it's like everything's ahead of you when you're younger. And then you start to go, oh, wait, how much do I have left?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
and the more pressure, John, comes because I have a daughter that's 3 because I got started late and a son that's 9 months. So like
oh, wow.
I'm really valuing the time I have. So
It's so good. But you know what though? It's like gratitude, man. Gratitude is a great thing. By the way, I don't notice the Shawshank behind you when you move to your right a little bit. And I think that is that Bad News Bears as well. Uh,
yeah, yeah,
that-
I got a lot going on. Yeah, I got a lot. One day,
yeah.
John, we'll have to have libations in my
All
man
right.
room. So I have to say you've done a lot. Jesus Revolution, American Underdog, which is so underrated. Case for Christ, you directed. The first two were movies you wrote. These are,
Mhm.
and you've done more than just these. I just highlighted a couple. Case for
Yeah.
Christ, and then Ordinary Angels, and what an upgrade that name was over Angels. I feel like Angels would have been deceiving. Ordinary puts a touch of humanity on it. I feel like, but
You
that's
know what's
just
funny? I appreciate you saying that. When the project came to me, it was called Angels. And I added the ordinary because I felt like I wanted to qualify that in a way that spoke to the heart of the project, which is that just regular people can do transformative things. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. You're the first one to mention it.
yeah, yeah. It's 100% grounded title. So let me ask you this, right? So, looking at this project, would you consider yourself? I hate asking this question, but would you consider yourself a faith-based director?
No, not at all. Although a lot of people would probably consider me that. I will tell you this though. I don't like the title faith-based film or
Me either. I don't know why I
I
asked
just
it.
because well no, but I'm glad you asked it because I think it's a conversation that everybody sort of, it's become what people consider almost a genre. But to me, genre is a drama or an action movie or a comedy. And I'm not interested in telling faith-based stories. I want to tell great stories.
Mm.
And if they're grappling with issues of faith or exploring issues of whether it be religion or spirituality or faith or Christianity specifically, any of that, that should be in service of a story that's worth telling that you tell with excellence. And I think that even strong people of faith, whatever faith that is, don't want to go to a movie about faith, really. Like, I mean, some people do, but like in general, you want to go see a great story, and so this is a story that has a faith component to it about a family that's struggling and finding redemption and a broken woman who helps a family in a way that heals herself. And the Alan Ritchson plays, who's by the way wonderful,
Mhm.
uh, plays a man whose heart has been hardened because of his loss and suffering, but then his heart is softened through the goodness of the people around him and his own children. And so that's powerful and transformative, right? And my hope is always to explore these things in honest and complicated ways. And then, then I understand. Then people say, well, if there's some kind of faith component, I guess that makes it a faith movie. But to me, this is just a drama and a true story and a biopic that I think is really powerful and really inspirational. And
Yeah,
and by the way,
you
there's a
know,
faith component.
Yeah, John, assuming your answer had been yes, right? Yes, I'm a faith-based director. I
Yeah,
mean, do you have to have faith to love a movie about family and kindness and humanity and
yeah.
respect? I mean, it was a loaded question. If I had to walk that one back, I probably would have.
No, no, I don't mind. I don't mind at all because I think it's actually relevant. I think a lot of people think these questions. I just talked to Hilary Swank this morning, and she said it. Someone asked her that question. She's like, I didn't quite know how to answer it because I just think of it as a great film. But it's a label, and I understand why. But I also think that what's important about it is that a community of faith feels underserved. And the reason for that is that movies have a hard time talking about religion and faith. Movies talk about so many other things, you know, unflinchingly. But religion and God and faith is sort of tricky and it's
Mm,
loaded
mm, mm.
and but it's real and it's something most humans experience. So I think that it's an interesting thing where we try to put, kind of like market or label an experience like movies that grapple with issues of faith. I think they're important issues to talk about. And if it's a good story and you can tell it well, then I'm excited to do it. But I'm not interested in telling a story that puts faith before the story, because that just feels like preaching or propaganda.
Oh, I totally agree. Disney has run into that wall, I feel like. But anyways, that's a conversation for another time. It's funny because I do believe though your actors have to share not the faith component, but the component that's key to the storytelling, right? You can't have actors sign on who are just there to kind of be actors and like, let's do this. I think they have to buy in, they have to be invested, they have to see what you're going for, I feel like, and something special like this and some of the stuff you've done in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, Alan is a very outspoken Christian, and Alan Ritchson does like a Instagram Insta church every Sunday. And he's very vocal about his faith. Hilary, talks about that too. She's a very spiritual person, but not a Christian. Her dad was a Christian. Her dad was a recipient of an organ transplant, and a lung transplant. So she felt very connected to that part of the story, the spirituality of it, the organ donor component of it, the power of just the sort of idea of mobilizing a community and helping another person with selfless acts. And so I think it's kind of beautiful when you get people that find their own way into the story. Like hopefully you've got a cast, and that's what I'm looking for. People that can bring their own lives into the story and find passion, however it connects to them personally. And this cast is really special. I honestly believe like the right people came together for this. And I'm very excited for people to see this side of Hilary, because there's a lot of fun and comedy in this role, which she hasn't done in a while. And I love that of her. And Alan, who's such an action hero and such a giant muscular, Jack Reacher, Fast and the Furious action star, who in this story is vulnerable and quiet and I think profoundly powerful in his performance.
And strength is not his biggest asset, as it usually is in other roles, right? That's maybe his down, maybe not downfall, but that's one of his weaker,
Well, and it was interesting because when we cast him, I was like, man, it's supposed to be an average guy, but he's so big. But then I realized this is also about a man who's ultimately going to be confronted with weather as his obstacle and nemesis in the story. The antagonist in our third act is the worst blizzard in Louisville history. And so I thought that's kind of cool that if man is going to go up against nature in the third act, to have a man so large, you think maybe he could take it on.
Right.
And yet he's humbled and needs help from this little woman, this fiery little woman who's a regular hairdresser, an alcoholic struggling in her own life, who takes it upon herself to help this family, whether they want it or not. And that leads to some really good humor, but also a lot of great inspiration as just a reminder that angels don't always come to us in the forms that we maybe would want.
Yeah, and I think people love these kind of messaging. I do. I love this kind of messaging, and I'm not the most religious person on the planet. Obviously, Angel and Kingdom Story are doing something right because people are flocking to these movies, right? The people love the messages that are being sent. I said a few of those earlier. The selflessness, the love, the family. Those messages just, I feel like, have gotten lost a little bit over time in movie making.
Yeah.
So I think when you bring something like Ordinary Angels out, people helping each other, because anytime you turn a news on, John, if somebody's been killed, somebody shot, somebody hit, somebody cursed somebody out, like it's like finally
I'll tell you what's interesting. Like, I'm a lover of movies. I love all kinds of movies, and like I said, I go to the theaters all the time. I want to experience great stories, and I think a lot of times people criticize that, like, oh, Hollywood has run out of ideas, or like all the superhero movies are so soulless. And that's, I don't think that's true at all. I think that some of the superhero movies are soulless. I think that it can happen that any kind of movie can lose its way when it's motivated by the wrong things. But there's a lot of really soulful, beautiful stories that are epic blockbusters and that are small independent films. And I think we're having a moment in time where we're a little tired of the same thing over and over again, and we're looking for something that has passion and soul and true stories that are inspirational, and real struggles that you can relate to are something that we haven't seen in the theaters as much over the last handful of years. And this year was great with Oppenheimer and even Sound of Freedom, and a lot of big hits that were dramas and that were original stories have reminded us what it's like to go back into the theater in a communal way to connect with something primal and transformative and revelatory. And so there's place for all of it. I love the big movies. I love the small movies. And I'm happy to be presenting a movie that I think is a reminder of a moment in time where community came together, where people helped others, whether they knew them or not. And in the divided times we live in now, I'm really proud to share that message and to share a hopeful story about faith in action, and about community coming together, and about making a difference in others' lives, and about how helping other people heals us as
Right.
well, you
Right,
know?
right. Well, well said, well said. Before I want to hop, it's funny that you say this because there are times where people offer me screeners, right? And I'm like, I just love watching stuff on the big screen. I don't care what
Me
it is.
too.
It's like it's just I've seen the same movie on the big screen and in my living room, and I'm telling you, man, it's like I saw two different movies.
I'll tell you
Honestly,
what, I get all the screeners too for the Oscars and everything. I don't watch any of them at home. I
good
go to
for
the
you.
theater, I go, and I would recommend for anyone listening now, like this film, Ordinary Angels, is the kind of movie that when you see it in a crowd, and I have many times, it plays almost like a comedy at times. There's so much laughter, there's so much movement in the theater because Sharon, it's the laughter that I love so much that comes unexpectedly and out of pain sometimes, where you're
Yeah,
like relief.
yeah.
And so the experience when you're focused in a large room in the dark with a crowd is vastly different than sitting on your couch interrupted multiple times. So I would really encourage people to go see this in theaters because it's my movie, but
Yeah.
also because I believe it's a better experience. And it also helps for us to make more of these movies when we get the support of people going out opening weekend. So I certainly hope people do because I love the experience of this film with a crowd.
I want to spend the last 8 minutes talking about Ordinary Angels, but I wanted to ask you one question about
Yeah,
your project after that, The Unbreakable Boy.
yeah,
You've used clearly Zach Levi
yeah.
before. What is it about him that's so special and that you like as an actor?
Well, it was wonderful for us in the midst of COVID. I was about to make the movie Jesus Revolution, and COVID hit, and we were 3 weeks away from shooting. So that whole movie got shut down. And American Underdog, which Zach plays Kurt Warner, that got shut down. So we were in COVID with big movies that had just about started rolling camera. They got delayed. So as we were all sitting around thinking it was a 2 week delay, maybe a 4 week delay,
Yeah.
maybe 4 months, as it turns out, 2 years, we were trying to come up with other ideas of movies to make that were smaller budgets that we could shoot in COVID with smaller crowds. And I had this book, The Unbreakable Boy, that had been brought to our company. And I'm like, what if I wrote this and we just shot this in COVID? So I wrote it really fast. Lionsgate greenlit it instantly, and we needed a star. And we already had Zach Levi lined up to play Kurt Warner. And we wanted to be in business with him, making movies with him. And so we were like, we're going to shoot that film in Oklahoma. What if we shot Unbreakable Boy in Oklahoma? We bundled them together. I directed the first one before Christmas. We took a break for Christmas, and then the Irwins directed American Underdog with him after Christmas. So we kind of tented off this area in Oklahoma, a COVID safe area. I started directing in November, December of 2020, in the thick of it, like one of the first movies to go. And then we took a break and then did American Underdog. So Zach Levi was training for football while I was directing Unbreakable Boy, and then went off and did American Underdog right after. So we did two back-to-back 4.5 months with Zach Levi. And he's a guy that I had known. We have a lot of friends in common, but I've never met him before. And now he's a dear friend of mine. And Unbreakable Boy is a very special story. It's a father-son story about an autistic child, who, by the way, narrates the movie. So it's told through the
Oh,
point of the
cool, cool.
autistic child. It's kind of a little bit Wonder and a little bit like Jojo Rabbit because it's
Yeah.
got some magic to it.
Oh, Jojo
And
Rabbit. Yeah.
it's such a special movie to me. And I can't wait for people to finally see that 4.5 years later after we
Yeah.
made
Well,
it.
I hope you come back on to talk about it.
I would love to.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm watching this trailer. My wife's like, we have to see this. I'm like, absolutely. And I feel like Hilary Swank, people forgot she was a good actor, not a good actor, but like a top like five.
Oh yeah.
I almost feel like not that she dropped off or what. I just feel like this woman is one of the most talented people on the planet, and I feel like some people forgot that.
Well, what's interesting? Like her father was sick for a number of years, and she sort of took time away to go be
Mm,
with him. And now she's had two children as well. And
yeah.
she, not only is she an amazing actress, but like I always remembered that like she's funny. And like a lot of the things she's known for weren't like even Boys Don't Cry, or to me, Million Dollar Baby, she's really funny, but like
Oof.
in a subtle like character way.
Mm.
But I'd seen some things with her, like remember her in The Gift with Keanu Reeves, like she was this abused wife, and she was so interesting. But she'd been in a lot of things, some smaller roles too, that had really made me laugh. And I thought, like, what a perfect combination to have an Oscar caliber actress who can do all that heavy, like emotional, complex character work, that who also has this really unexpected sense of comedy timing. And she's just beautiful and complicated in a way that I love, you know, and
Mm.
so I couldn't believe we got her. And I agree with you. I hadn't seen in a number of years that side of her, but I've told her this many times, and I've told a lot of people, like when I saw Million Dollar Baby, I went back to the theater over that first week, three extra times to see that movie, four times. I just think she's magical in it. So it was like quite an honor to get her in my film. And I think she delivers this sort of Aaron Brockovich role. Her character name is Sharon, so we would call her Sharon Brockovich when making the film. She is that kind of woman that is just unstoppable. Like, you know, in a messy, loud, colorful, dynamic way, she's going to bulldoze her way into a situation, and she's going to move mountains, and there's nothing that's going to stop her.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been as floored from a movie as Million Dollar Baby in my life. Like, I don't
Right.
think I've ever been devastated. So I didn't research this part of it. Is the real life Sharon? Is she still with us?
Yep, yep. She thinks that Hilary nailed her. Perfect. She's so delighted. She's wonderful. She's quite a character herself and unstoppable. And so yeah, she'll be at the premiere with us. She's been very involved. I've been communicating with her for the last 2 years as we made this.
So, John, when it comes to like movies like American Underdog and Ordinary Angels, is there any more pressure telling a story based on somebody's life? Do you feel like there's a little bit of an added, I don't want to say burden because then it makes it sound arduous,
No,
but like,
responsibility.
yeah,
Like,
responsibility, better word.
and
Yeah.
I take that responsibility really seriously. I've done a lot of true stories, right? I've written and or directed quite a lot of them, actually, probably 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
And I do take that responsibility seriously. And I always say that a lot of filmmakers stay away from the real people because it can get messy, or they don't want to be burdened by the truth of it. I really wrap my arms around it, I always say to them that I know this is going to be the one movie of your life. So I'm going to be a good steward of that, and do my best to make an excellent version of your life story that you'll be proud of. And so I want to get the essence and the heart of their story right. And, you know, I say that to them all the time, that like, it's not going to be exactly the way it happened. Like Alan Ritchson is a larger, taller, more handsome version of you, Ed. You're just going to have to accept that like, you know, we're consolidating facts and we're trying to dream up what the specific dialogue might have been. But the more that I can pull from the real people, what the essence and the heart of their story was, the more happy they'll be and the better the movie will be. So I love doing true stories because there's always a resource to say, like, what kinds of movies did you guys watch? What was your favorite activities? Like, how did you argue? What kind of toothpaste did you use? Like, what was it like at that time in this era? Like, you could just get a lot of details from them that just bring the story to life in more complex ways. So I love doing stories.
I think it's genius to cast Ritchson and a guy who's that vulnerable. I think it adds more magnitude to his role. I feel like that's well, how does a script like this like just get kicked around for so long? You know, I feel like this story's been out there a while. John, correct me if I'm incorrect, but like,
yeah, 15 years. It was 15 years.
That's insane. That's insane.
Well, I think it was one of those stories that, like, you know, a local producer had found it when the thing happened in the 90s. Rick Baker is his name, and not the special effects makeup guy, but a guy named Rick Baker. And he was trying to shepherd it along, and then it went to multiple other writers and producers, and Dave Matthews ended up attached to it and was a producer on it. So now
Wow.
Matthews, he wrote a song for us that's in the closing credits called Little Bird, Pretty Bird. And then Meg Tilly she wrote a draft of it, and then it made its way to John Berg, who's the producer of Elf and Wonder Woman, a bunch of Warner Brothers movies. And he brought it to Lionsgate. Lionsgate brought it to me. So I was this guy that was handed the football on the 1 yard line and sort of brought it over the end zone. And so many people have worked for so many years to shepherd it along. And, you know, sometimes these journeys, just for unexpected reasons, the pieces don't quite come together. So I'm very honored to be the guy that gets to make it and share it with the world. And I think the timing is perfect to tell a story about unity and community coming together at a time that's as divided as we are. It's a nice reminder of how much a simple act of service can change someone's life.
Yeah, and I feel like you don't have to be any age. You could be almost any age. I mean, obviously not a kid, like 2 or 3, but like anybody can appreciate something like this. It's not a specific genre. It's just a movie about life. I mean, that's all.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's kind of a domestic drama for 2 acts and then a big action scene in the third act.
Yes.
In the blizzard. And so that was fun for me as well, and challenging in interesting ways. But we wanted it to be as accurate as possible. So we went out into the snow in Winnipeg and really shot in the
You are very brave to go into Winnipeg. I can't even imagine.
Brutal. It was brutal. But
John,
it was great.
John, I'm a big fan. I hope you come back. You're so easy to talk to. Just so much fun. Thank you for this.
You too, man. Thank you for having me, Derek. Thanks for spreading the word. And I really appreciate it. I'll come back on to talk about The Unbreakable Boy in 8 months.
All the best. It's like to see you next week. Thank you.